The Atlanta Braves dropped 2 out of 3 games to the Washington Nationals over the weekend, losing only their second series of the year. But what you should not be doing is panicking about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today, a production of the Belief Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. The Braves lost 2 out of 3 to the Washington Nationals over the weekend, and it was very frustrating from the perspective of Atlanta almost got shut out in back-to-back games, shut out on Saturday, and then did not score their first run until the 9th inning of Game 3, so almost got shut out in back-to-back games, and they ultimately lose the series. Let's talk about what happened, but let's also keep in mind the big picture here and why there is no reason to panic about losing a series at home in the way you did. And it's very, very obvious that the star of this series, the reason the Braves were so good and that the series was as competitive as it was the pitching. Atlanta's pitchers in general, through 29 innings, remember Saturday went to extras, 29 innings with 7 earned runs allowed. They walked 8 and struck out 28. It's good for a 2.17 ERA. Now, I will say, the Nationals hit 4 home runs in the series, which is something that could potentially bite you if you're giving those up with guys on base. But the reason, and this is the positive from the series, right? The reason the Braves lost was not the pitching. And I think if we had sat back and rationally discussed heading into the season the weakness of this Atlanta Braves roster, given all of the injuries we had in spring, we absolutely would have said the weakness is the pitching. Because you lost Hurston Waldrop and Spencer Schwellenbach and Joey Wentz and Spencer Strider was on the IL with the hamstring, the oblique, all of that stuff. We would have said the weakness of this team is going to be the pitching. They were not the reason this weekend. They looked really good. Grant Holmes and Martin Perez both took losses over the weekend, and it arguably wasn't their fault. That's the other part of this. This was not a series in which you threw Sale and Strider and Elder like you're going to do this week in Boston. You threw Elder, Grant Holmes, who wasn't even in the rotation 2 weeks ago, and Martin Perez, who was on a minor league deal and was charitably Atlanta's 9th option for a rotation spot entering the season. And yet, here you are. They allow a total combined of 7 earned runs, 8 overall runs. So 2.3 runs per game. That'll get it done. What won't get it done is Atlanta's offense. And the best way to describe Atlanta's offense in this 3-game series was offensive. The Braves hit 173, right? They were 18 for 104 in this series. No home runs, only 2 extra base hits. They had 2 doubles. They struck out 27 times to 7 walks, stole 1 base. So it was 20 total bases in 3 games. And let's not sugarcoat that. That is not good. That is very bad. I'm not in any way saying that is not a problem. I'm saying don't panic about it. I'm saying I have made one of the classic mistakes, right? There's a big one, never go when it gets a Sicilian when death is on the line. The other mistake that I made is never read the comments. I know that you know ball. The fact that you are watching, listening to Braves Today, you know ball. This is my audience, right? This has been curated. You are here because you know the kind of stuff that we talk about on Braves Today. But I've been doing, for some reason, a lot of reading the comments for the postcast over on Locked On Sports Atlanta and Locked On Braves. And this is not a shot at Jake at all. This is not a shot at Jake. His audience is different from mine. And I have seen a lot of people this weekend who have decided that this team might not even make the playoffs. Never mind if they do not advance. And that we should blow it up. Ronald Acuña Jr. should be traded. I swear somebody said that to me. Ronald Acuña Jr. needs to be traded. And that is just way over-exaggerated off of 3 games. Out of 162. Which, I guess we'll see if they play 162. I don't know if you realize this. A lot of Atlanta's recent championship seasons, they've not played a full-length season of games. They didn't in 95. They didn't in 2021, right? They were 1 game short because a late-season game against maybe Colorado, I think, was rained out and not made back up. And one of the World Series, or in both of the World Series seasons when they were in Boston, like those were not standard-length seasons because I think it was actually because of ties they played more games of 1 or 2 of those seasons. But like, the Braves have a thing. If they don't play the prescribed number of games on the schedule, they're going to win the World Series. So just be ready for that. Hope that something gets rained out and not made up. But this team is considered the number 1 team in baseball still, despite the weekend, despite the results. I want to talk about these results, and I want to discuss what's going on now and how to fix it. And the results that they got, were they sustainable? How sustainable are they if they are? Let's do all of that. Kind of a macro look. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are the delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all the IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. And all IQ Bar products are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMO, and artificial ingredients. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. And their Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our podcast listeners 20% off of all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64000. Mentions and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Even after the rough series over the weekend, a lot of what Atlanta's been doing on offense hasn't been fluky. And by that, I mean, let's look at the process. Let's talk about what's different. And let's talk about where we're going to go from here. Because I think the first thing that you have to look at is what they've actually done versus what they should have done, right? Were they lucky at the plate, for instance? Okay, so as of Monday morning, the Braves are tied with the Tampa Bay Rays for the best batting average in baseball at 260. Batting average in and of itself does not matter, but we're going to go through all of this, so just hang on here. Tampa Bay's expected batting average on Statcast, which, reminder, is a projection of what those batted balls at those exit velocities, those launch angles, and all of that would normally do. Their expected is a 244. So they have overproduced by 0.016. And that difference for them is actually the biggest difference in baseball. The Braves have an expected batting average of .256. So an actual 260, a projected 256. Pretty close to sustainable. Like it's a mild 4 points of batting average is not nothing, but it's not much. What they've done at the plate, batting average wise, has been sustainable. When you look at slugging, the Braves lead baseball in slugging at .431. Next closest team is the Dodgers at .427, the Yankees at .426. And then Washington actually at .413. They're right there behind us. When you look at expected slugging, Atlanta's .431 should actually be a .439. They've been a little bit unlucky with their batted balls. And those of us, I used to do a lot of this. I do a lot less of it now. But a lot of us kind of look and say, hey, that ball probably should have been gone and it wasn't. There are teams who have significant underperformances. Like Atlanta's .008 is not anything. Tampa Bay, actual 388, expected 364. They're way overperforming. Biggest difference in baseball. The flip side of this, there are some teams that are struggling. The Mets are underperforming by .064. It's an actual 349 is an expected of 413. You look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers have an actual 427 and expected 448. So like they should be leading baseball in slugging, not us. And their slugging should be 17 points higher than ours. And instead they're 4 points below. But a lot of what the Braves are doing there is sustainable. When you look at WOBA, which is weighted on base average, and a reminder here of what this is this is walks plus strikeouts plus your batted balls by quality of contact. It takes exit velocity and launch angle into account to better have an accurate picture of the type of balls you're putting in play, which you can control, and not just the results, which you can't control. Atlanta is at a 334, which is tied for second with the Yankees. Their expected WOBA, ex-WOBA if you will, 332, .002 under what they actually performed. Atlanta's offensive performance this year has been earned. It is legitimate. They are not getting lucky. They are not significantly outperforming, on the whole, what they're doing at the plate, their inputs. That being said, not every single hitter is equal. And I think when you look at that, you kind of see some of the issues for the Braves. Because Atlanta has had a lot of guys who were overperforming, and now they're starting to regress, and you're starting to see this show up at the plate. Mauricio Dubon, you look at his WOBA, 313. His expected's a 296. He's not a guy that hits the ball very hard. He doesn't have massive swing speed. He doesn't have massive exit velocities. And so because of that, his expected stats are below where he actually is. Ozzie Albies, another guy with a lower sprint speed, a lower swing speed, a lower exit velocity, actual of 336, expected of 299. So another overperformance there. A lot of your stars haven't, like Matt Olson, actual 381, expected 377. Matt Olson's just Matt Olson. He's in a little bit of a slump right now. I'll acknowledge that. And every player has hot streaks and cold streaks and stuff. And let's just 2023, and then every single player for the Braves is just hot all year. Shout out to the PitchCom hack. But what Matt Olson was doing was sustainable. What Drake Baldwin was doing, he was actually underperforming. And he was still hitting 303 with a 543 slug. He should have been hitting 305 with a 587 slug. His WOBA was 407, which is absurd. It should have been 418. Like, he was underperforming, believe it or not. Dominic Smith, he's overperforming a little bit, 377 versus an expected of 368. But that's kind of where the Braves are, is a lot of the role players were overperforming, and they've started to come back to earth a little bit. While some of the stars, I'm thinking about Michael Harris here, I'm thinking about Ronald Acuña Jr. here, have been underperforming, and their results have not completely caught up yet. Michael Harris, 357 WOBA. His expected, 382. Ronald Acuña Jr., 326. His expected, 370. Which is still below Matt Olson, but not by much. In essence, what this is saying is he's hitting 242 with a 356 slug. He should be hitting 254 with a 464 slug. He is 108 points of slugging below where he should be based on the profile of the batted balls. So what you have is you have the guys who were overperforming have started regressing before all of the guys who were underperforming have caught up to what they should be producing. It's a recipe that says this offense should be getting better because the guys who are underperforming are the stars. Ronald Acuña Jr., Michael Harris, Drake Baldwin, and he hopefully will be back soon. We don't have official updates yet on him, but he will be back sometime soon. They do believe it was a minor issue. And in the meantime, the impact that you see from those over performances from the role players, I think the number one place it shows up is Atlanta's MLB high 18 comeback wins. It is going to be hard for a role player to meaningfully have a significantly outsized impact in every game. Right? They're a role player for a reason. It's usually a raw talent kind of level or an ability of that talent to directly influence the outcome of the game. Like Mauricio Dubon's incredibly talented, but being a really good defender at 7 spots can only be so impactful in a baseball game. But a lot of these comeback wins have been fueled by these role players having big moments. Mauricio Dubon with 2 strikes. I swear this dude has been just absurdly good. With runners in scoring position, Mauricio Dubon has a 167 WRC+. Dominic Smith has a 182. Heck, Eli White has a 170. We saw in the 9th inning on Sunday. He got a ball in play. It worked out. It was an error, but he got a ball in play. The quality of his contact, the speed that he was running with, probably impacted that in some small way. They've been additive in those situations. When you look at not just runners in scoring position, but high leverage moments, and shout out to Fangraphs for having this, you see a bunch of role players up there for Atlanta. Chadwick Tromp with a 191. I think a lot of that comes back to Saturday. He's not been here that long. Jorge Mateo with a 191. Mauricio Dubon with a 184 WRC+. Like, the role players are role players for a reason, but they've been able to get it done in those key situations. And so the 18 comeback wins, again, most in baseball, is that sustainable? I would argue to an extent, yes. They have guys who have been able to perform in those leverage situations. And so, while I don't know how sticky that stat is, like, these are all small sample sizes. Dubon's got 23 high leverage plate appearances all year. Olson's got 25. Albies has 24. By the way, they're also positive. Albies has a 174 WRC+. Olson has a 160. What I don't know is how much of that carries over, but like, that's why you're here. And we know, at least with Dubon, I can speak to, like, we know that that's an approach thing. That's not luck. That is a specific approach he takes in those situations to shorten the swing, to shoot the ball the other way, down the line, over the first baseman's head, between first and second, whatever it might be, and get going. Like, that's an approach thing from Dubon. It's a process that feels sustainable. But what do you do now? What happens going forward to maintain what you're doing? Because I do think you have a unique challenge coming up this week that we need to talk about. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today. Let's talk about, I'm not going to do the full Boston Red Sox preview, right? We've already faced them, but two, that'll kind of be tomorrow, right? But before I do want to talk about what's going to happen this week, because it's going to look weird, right? Your rotation for Boston: Spencer Strider, Bryce Elder, Chris Sale. Their rotation is a problem for the Braves because Game 2, it's officially Connerly Early, who you struggled with last time you saw him. Thursday is a TBD officially, but it's lined up to be Peyton Tolley, who you struggled with last time you saw him. And then Tuesday, you haven't seen him with Boston, but it's Ranger Suarez. And the Braves have struggled against him at times in his career. I think his last 5 starts against Atlanta, going back to 24. He is 2-2 with a 3.67 ERA. But 3 times last year with Philly, he faced the Braves, and he allowed a combined 2 runs. He struck out 18. He walked 5. He allowed 2 earned runs in 18 innings. So, one, you got to figure out how to hit Ranger Suarez, which despite his stuff being below average, they haven't been able to do. But also, you've got 3 lefties in the lineup. 3 lefties in the opposing rotation. And the problem that causes for the Braves is a lot of their best performances recently have been guys who are not going to be starting in those situations. The Braves have not used Dom Smith that much against lefties. And shout out to Washington on Sunday for working their bullpen and having multiple lefties and just finding a way really to keep Dom Smith out of the game and keep Mike Yastrzemski out of the game for the most part. Shout out to Blake Buteras, the manager in Washington. Shout out to how he did that. That was impressive. I was thinking that, is this the moment you can use one of these guys? And he made the moves and he kept lefties, and Atlanta didn't want to go to these guys. But this week in Boston, you're going to have to use them. You can't go a 3-game series without playing either guy, especially when you look at the way that this offense is playing recently and how some of these Braves hitters are struggling over the last couple weeks. Your best hitting regular right now, believe it or not, in the last 15 days is Austin Riley. He's hitting .255. Yeah, I know. It's kind of surprising, right? Eli White's had 7 at-bats since he got off the injured list, right? Ha-Sung Kim is 4 for 34. He's still trying to get going after not having a spring and then having 2 weeks of rehab outings, some in AA and some in AAA. He just wasn't ready when they brought him up. But Matt Olson's hitting 160. Ozzy's hitting 167. Ronald's hitting 182. Dubon's hitting 222. Michael Harris is hitting 231. A lot of your regulars who play almost every day are not getting it done. And the guys that are hot and that are hitting well are guys who typically don't play against lefties. Dominic Smith is hitting 324 with an 824 OPS in the last 15 days. He's got 34 at-bats in that span. He's 11 to 34 with a double, a triple, a homer. He scored 6 runs. Driven in 5. Mike Yastrzemski, 360 average, 1307 OPS. He has 25 at-bats. He has 9 hits, including 3 homers and 3 doubles. He scored 7 runs. He's driven in 8. If you stick to chalk, he's not going to play the entire Boston series unless you can manage to find a a pinch hitting opportunity for him late. And I'm at the point where I'm wondering, do you need to find a way to get one or both of them in the lineup anyway? With the way your catcher position is right now, Chadwick Tromp, Sandy Leon, to me, functionally, there is no difference in the two. This is not like a situation where you're downgrading going from Drake Baldwin to Sandy Leon or Jonah Heim or whoever. I know that we've seen Sandy Leon make some good caught stealings. We've seen Chadwick Tromp be clutch on Saturday. But for the most part, these guys are in essence interchangeable. And so, is it worth DHing Ronald sometimes to get Mike Yastrzemski out there? Or is it worth letting Dominic Smith be a DH and face a lefty starter? The numbers would say no. The numbers would say don't do that. The reason you have Dominic Smith and the reason he's been so successful is you're not asking him to face lefties. In the last 3 seasons plus this year, when you look at Dom Smith versus righties, he's hitting .262 with a 109 WRC plus. Against lefties, it's a 68 WRC plus and a .233 average. If you look at just this season, he has a grand total of 10 at-bats against a lefty all season. Now, he has 3 hits. One of those is a double. But, they just haven't been willing to let him do it. Mike Yastrzemski has 19 at-bats. He's 3 for 19 with a double. They just haven't been willing to let him do it. Do you need to change that this week? Do you need to make a concentrated effort to give him an opportunity to give both of them an opportunity to get in a game to see if them being hot can continue? Or is the fact that they are hot the fact that you have protected them against what has historically been a bad matchup for them? That's the question we got to figure out. Jorge Mateo, that same time frame, 23 through now, has a 99 WRC plus against lefties, batting .256. Against righties, it's a 55. Maybe this is a time where you put Jorge Mateo in the game multiple days. Maybe he gets a start at shortstop in place of Ha-Seong Kim. Maybe he gets a start at second base in place of Ozzie. Maybe you use him in the outfield. We've heard about how aggressive Walt Weiss is with the bullpen and pulling a starter and going to a leverage reliever even when it's not the typical time when you would have seen a Braves team go to a leverage reliever right there, or going to one of their best leverage relievers instead of following the pitching plan. This is the time to try it. This is the time to be aggressive with the lineup. Try some different things. Maybe stop putting Ozzie at cleanup. I know they're doing that to break up some lefties. Give Dom a chance to hit there. Put somebody else, find a way to get these guys in the lineup and see if the fact that they're seeing the ball well right now can give them the ability to provide a spark while you're dealing with temporary slumps from some of the other members of the lineup. And by some, I mean most of the stars in the lineup right now. At this point, listen, your lead in the division is still 9.5 games. I'm sorry, I said it's 9 games. Washington jumped Philly. Washington's in second place at 27-27. So 9-game lead on Washington, 9.5 on Philly. And yes, the Braves have to go face Boston. And it's not... It is what it is. You're facing Boston again. But while you're doing this, while you're facing Boston this week, and then go into Cincinnati to face the Reds, which should help your power performance in that ballpark. And then coming home to face the Blue Jays and the Pirates, and then the White Sox and the Mets. The Phillies have to take on the Padres on the road, and then the Dodgers on the road, and then the Padres at home. And then they get the same White Sox and Blue Jays teams you do. But then they've got to face the Brewers while you face the Mets. And then you get to face the Giants, who have not been good. The schedule works out in your favor. You have the lead. Be willing to take a little bit more of a risk with things like asking Yastrzemski or Dom to be in the lineup against a lefty to see if you can get a spark and carry you over until Drake Baldwin is back. See if it works. That'll do it for Braves Today. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time on Braves Today.